Hi, everybody. Thanks to everyone who is joining. Welcome. We're really excited to have you here for this interview on webinar on how to ace your interview. We have Cybill Getgood here. The room is filling up. If you want to let us know in the chat where you're joining from, we would love to know. I'm currently in Washington, DC, but normally based in Malawi, and really excited for this session. I know it's going to be a great one. Again, really excited to have everyone here for this webinar on how to ace your job interview. I don't think it gets better than having Cybill here to talk about tips. No one knows it better than her. So really excited. My name in just a moment. So my name is Jennifer Bongora, and I'm Nexford University's Director of Career Innovation. I'm thrilled to be here today with Cybill Getgood, who is one of our mentors as part of the Global Grid Initiative. We are really honored to have her here. With this initiative, we are trying to extend lessons to our Nexford community and our learners and alumni on how to thrive and survive in the remote world, and to land jobs and meaningful careers. So I'm really excited to have Cybill here because one of the things that is really important to us at Nexford is this education to employment continuum. So it's really important as we're all, lifelong learners, but also we need to know how that translates into our careers. And something as a career coach that I hear in every conversation with a student, with a learner, with a client is, how can I interview better? It's really hard, and it's always changing too on what we can do as best tips and tricks to succeed. So we are really excited to have Cybill here. Cybill, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you introduce yourself and your incredible background. We are so thankful to have you here. And without further ado, just as a housekeeping though, I'm sorry, before I completely turn it over, if anyone has questions during the conversation, during the webinar, please put them in the Q&A on the bottom. You'll see the Q&A. The chat can get excited and busy, which is great. We would love to keep those questions in one space. So at the end, we will cover them live and make sure that your question is answered. So just as a note, and without further ado, over to you, Cybill.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jennifer. And thank you to everybody here from my company who's coming to see me. This is such an incredible initiative, the Global Grid. And I can say I've met some of the mentors in the Global Grid, and I'm just, wow, it's such an honor to be here today. So thank you, Nexford University, for having me. So just a quick introduction on me. I want you to take a look at the screen, but I want you to ignore everything that you see on the screen right now, because I'm going to start this by sharing with you a very quick story. I was a student of a third world country, from a province of a third world country. And a long time ago, I went on this job interview. I was invited by the sister, my best friend's sister, who told me, you need to attend this interview. And being a province girl, I came from poverty. I came from very humble beginnings. And I went on this interview. I didn't have a CV. All I had was a really, really good attitude. So I went into this interview and I interviewed with the CEO of the company. And he asked me an incredible question, a question that I was not prepared for. This was 17-year-old me. And the question was, if you had an opportunity to leave your country, would you, and why? And 17-year-old me said, if I had an opportunity to leave the Philippines, I wouldn't, because I'm needed in my country, and this is where I can make an impact. And that was 17-year-old me. And you know what? That question has brought me here today, because that question dramatically changed my life. The CEO who interviewed me on that day is the CEO of my company today, my business partner. We've built and sold multi-million-dollar firms together, and we now own one. So that is the importance of a job interview. And you could be in the same situation that I was in 13 years ago. You are one job interview away from tremendously changing your life. So a few things that we're going to be discussing today. We're going to be talking about some pre-interview preparation, first impressions, how to make a lasting, an amazing and incredible interview present, crafting your professional elevator pitch, great questions to ask the hiring manager, and of course, what not to do, cardinal sins of a job interview, and of course, how to make a lasting impression, closing the interview. So bear with me. This is going to be a very hip and fun presentation because I have a lot of gifts in this slide. But anyway, applying for a job is like joining a race. And to be race ready, you need the following things that you see. You need to register for a race, pick a rate that suits your capability, assemble the right gear, study the race course, formulate a strategy, train for the race, nourish yourself. And now I'm going to talk in job terms. When you register for the race, you have to register for job boards, or maybe register on that job site or that job portal of that company that you're applying to. You've got to pick whatever job or job description that suits your capability, and you have to assemble the right gear. So what is the right gear in the job application context? Now, there's a few things that you have to assemble. You've got your CV, you've got your LinkedIn profile, you've got your computer. I just had a technical difficulty getting into this webinar. So if you're going to go on a virtual interview, you've got to get your computer ready, your outfit, what you wear. That's part of your gear. You've got to study the race course. Now, if you're applying for the interview, that could be the hiring process. How many stages are there in the hiring process? And am I prepared for it? Does this fit my timeline? Now, another cardinal sin when you're walking into the job market is not having a strategy. As I said, applying for a job is just like joining a race. So you've got to have a strategy. How many recruiters are you talking to? How many job boards are you signing up to? If you don't have a strategy, you're already entering the race with a losing mentality. Now then, of course, you've got to train for the race, and you've got to nourish yourself and have the right nutrition. Now, a lot of people don't realize that being mentally ready and actually giving yourself some supplements, whether it's having a support network around you or being ready for the day of the job interview, that is so vital because it gives you all of that fuel. So you have the confidence to be the A player that you have to be when you're on the interview process. Of course, you got to get your timing right. You can't just ramble along in the interview and lose the interviewer as you're telling your story. And then, of course, being mentally ready. I cannot stress enough how mindset is such a catalyst. It's a make or break in the job interview process. And then, of course, you've got to join the race. You've got to be there. You've got to be present in the interview. And then, of course, you've got to reach the finish line. So what is the finish line to you? It's getting that job, getting the job of your dreams. So that's why you have to prepare for it like it's joining a race. Now, here's a few things that we have to keep in mind. And like I said earlier, this is going to be a very colorful presentation. So how to be race ready. There are 6 things that I'm going to mention here, and be prepared because I'm going to be prepared with a pen and paper because I have a lot of tips for you. Now, first things first, you've got to update and optimize your CV and your LinkedIn profile. Now, I'm doing this presentation not just with the recruiter and hiring manager's perspective. I'm also a self-taught marketer. So update your CV because you need all of this information to sell yourself better. But of course, you also have to optimize it because I have a really fun activity for you guys. For those of you who have lots of tabs open, I want you to do this. Go to Google and do an image search for the word CV or resume and tell me what you see. Okay, so this is what I see whenever. This is literally me going on Google and doing a search for CV or resume. And this is what I see. Now, if you are a recruiter, In my company, we've processed 5,000 applications last year. Out of that 5,000, I've interviewed 500 myself. And when you are on the back end of a CRM or an applicant tracking system, this is literally what you see. Now, just looking at it from afar, which of these CVs stand out? So can you just imagine, if you want to be a candidate that gets immediately noticed by your recruiter, you've got to do something so your CV stands out, because what we see every day is like this. It's plain black and white. There's no character to it. And you know what? As a recruiter, what happens if you see the same thing all over again every single day? You tend to tune things out. And if you, as a candidate vying for a role, you know that there's going to be so many candidates competing against you in that role. And what do these candidate CVs look like? This is what you are competing against. Now, I won't go as crazy as this very colorful image right here, but I'm a marketer, so I would actually interview this person with a very colorful CV. But a lot of candidates nowadays have a fully designed CV. And it really stands out. I tell you, it makes a difference, especially if the recruiters are looking at hundreds, if not thousands of CVs every single day. So now you're going to tell me, but Cybill, this looks so fancy. I don't have any graphic design experience, and I can't afford paying a graphic designer or a resume builder. So my advice to you, you can use free tools such as Canva. There's literally a template on Canva for this. Or you can use a tool that's called Enhanced CV, and it gives you, I think, 2 free versions of the CV. And this is what it could potentially look like. All you need are 2 things, time and effort. And then you have a beautiful CV. Next thing, research the company. What are their services? What are their goals, their mission, their vision, their purpose? And why is that really important? You know, I've been on so many interviews. I've probably been on 20 or 30 interviews every single week. And I'm disappointed every single time I ask the question, have you done your research, and have you researched our company and what we do? And so many candidates say, I browsed through your website, or not really, I haven't had the time to research your company. And you know what? That is a major red flag. What are you even doing in the interview if you can't do your research beforehand? So research the company, because here's another pro tip for you. When you research the company, and if you look at their values, it's actually an incredible cheat sheet. Now, I went to McDonald's website last night, and I looked at their mission vision page, and here are the 5 values that are truly important to them. Serve, inclusion, integrity, community, and family. Why is this important to you? When you are going for that job interview and you want to say something that is going to be impressive and impactful, say a few of these things. If these values truly resonate with who you are as a professional, this is the prime time to say it. Another thing, know the hiring manager. So for some of you who won't get the opportunity to know the hiring manager, know a lot about the recruiting process. But if you have the opportunity to know the hiring manager in advance, to get their name, get their LinkedIn profile, it's usually found in the calendar invite if it's a virtual interview, or it's usually found in the company's website, who's potentially the area head of that department that you're applying to. Why? Because there are tools such as Crystal Knows. Now, this is a free Google extension that you find. It's for free. And whenever you go to the LinkedIn profile of this hiring manager or a person that you're potentially trying to convince or influence, You literally just have to click the crystal nose button and it will tell you exactly how to communicate with that person. Now I'm showing you my handsome husband's profile right here. He's the person in charge of hiring for everybody in business development and everybody in HR. And on the right here, it says, Jamie Getgood, how to communicate. Do speak with high energy and answer questions directly. That is really how you talk to him. And don't give an in-depth product description. Yes, that is him. It's so crazy how accurate Crystal Knows is. So if you're going on a job interview and you find the name of your hiring manager, try Crystal Knows, and it might shock you at how useful it can be pre-interview. Next, prepare 2 to 5 thoughtful questions. So don't ask anything that you can find in the internet, because that will surely irritate the interviewer, unless it's really something that, that you really, really need to know. But it's actually a red flag for a hiring manager to interview a candidate that doesn't have any questions. The questions isn't just an opportunity for you to know more about the company. It's also a way for you to say what's important to you. And I'm going to touch on this later because I have a few really, really good questions that you can use in your interview. Next, you need 2 to 4 professional references. So why I say professional references, it's so crazy, but I still see people sending us their sister, their uncle, and some of their friends. If you want to get hired, you want those professional references. It could be somebody that you've worked alongside with, or maybe a client of yours, or your boss. The one that weighs the most is really your direct supervisor. So please, if you're leaving a company right now, don't burn the bridge with your direct supervisor. Build that connection, because one day that reference is going to mean something to you. Next, you've got to practice your elevator pitch. Now, I don't know if we can do this, but does anybody here not know what an elevator pitch is? Or who knows here what an elevator pitch means? So this is, in startup terms, your only opportunity to catch a venture capital investor. If you're a startup founder, you literally have the time when you catch them in the elevator to pitch your product. So what are the elements of a good elevator pitch? I'll discuss that in the next few slides. But first, let's talk about the first impression. How long does it take to form a first impression? Shocking, but it's only 1/10 of a second, totaling up to 7 seconds for a major impression. Can you believe that? That's how short of a time you get to impress the person in front of you. So it's super important. And a lot of us are doing these virtual interviews now. It's so important that when you turn that video on, you welcome your interviewer with a good smile. Most of the impression in the first second is non-verbal cues. So your facial expressions. Now, I've done probably 1,000 interviews over the last few years that have all been online. And the most common thing that I see is when people are thinking, they frown like this. And they don't realize, they're not paying attention at all, that the interviewer is already, you're dragging the energy down. So I'm gonna coin my husband here. Before you join any interview, try to do a power pose. Typically, when we go in an interview, especially if it's a physical interview, what do we usually do? We go on our phones, we text, and then we minimize ourselves. And what does that do? It physically brings the mood down. So if you want to make a great first impression, expand yourself. You can do this in the toilet, but try to expand yourself, because if you do, it actually sends signals in your brain and it enlightens you. And another thing, whenever you're going something that's potentially going to scare you, it's going to be nerve-wracking for you, try to tell yourself you are excited instead of saying, I am nervous, I don't know what to do, this is so scary for me. You're just gonna fill yourself with anxiety. So whenever you know that something super important is right in front of you and you want to strike that good first impression, try to strike a power pose before you do that, and you'll literally feel the energy lighten up. Of course, grooming and your dress standard. A lot of us can pull off having a really nice shirt and just pajamas in the bottom. Yes, that's acceptable in a virtual interview. But please, if you are going in a physical interview, you've got to dress the part. This is so important. The hiring managers look at everything. Me as a hiring manager, the first thing that I do is I scan for red flags. And you don't want to be in that situation because of a t-shirt. So put your dress shoes on, put your dress top on, and look the part. Okay. Interview presence is so crucial because it's the difference between being hired or being declined. Sometimes, tell you what, sometimes we hire people just because they can speak louder, just because they've got that winning presence that you just want to hire. So what are the factors that contribute to interview presence? We've got voice modulation. Now, this is so underplayed because I've seen this over and over again. I interview a lot of talented people who just talk very plain because this is all that they've done and they haven't really practiced. It's really so when you tell a story, when you want to engage someone, you have to go up and down with your voice just so there's some variation. Of course, I think we touched about grooming earlier, and the posture is very important. As I said, the more that you prop yourself up, the more that it actually gives you confidence. It lightens up your mood. So never, if you're in an interview, don't ever bring a cell phone or don't ever bring something that will collapse your posture. Try to always expand yourself because you want to look like you're confident. You're going to ace this. You're going to smash this. Hand gestures are really important. Having a healthy this or that is okay, but don't make it all about fingers. You want to maintain that eye contact. You want to maintain that healthy balance of body language. And of course, confidence. I think there are 3 things that really impact confidence. Number 1 is your preparation. You've got to prepare. The more prepared you are, the more knowledgeable you are about a role, the more knowledgeable you are about your prospective company, it will surely bring your confidence up. Next would be experience. Now, for some of you, you don't have that experience yet. Some of you are beginning in their careers. Let me tell you, that can be solved by one thing and one thing alone, your mindset. So always go in an interview with a growth mindset, with a winning attitude. I can do this. I am so excited. Then I've mentioned preparation earlier. And I think the one thing that we miss the most in interviews is having a really good smile. As I mentioned, I've done so many virtual interviews and a lot of people just really keep their mouth closed, have no facial expression. Remember to smile. It makes a massive impact. Okay, now, so just as a recap of everything I've discussed earlier, here are the 5 building blocks to market yourself. A personal brand. For some who don't have a personal brand, LinkedIn is a good starting place. So that's your online presence. I want you to know your LinkedIn is not just a chronicle of what you've done. It's an expression of yourself. It's your footprint on the internet. So make sure you spend your time to build it because this is the way that you market yourself. For those of you who don't have a marketing background, LinkedIn is the place to go. Your cover letter. Now, I know this is a controversial topic. Some people say a cover letter doesn't really matter anymore. You know what? If you do your research and look at the people who's hiring you, what matters to them? If you think that a cover letter matters, send it. I want you to know I give special attention. So if there's anybody here who's applying for my company, I give special attention to candidates who send me a direct email with a thoughtful message on why they think they're fit for my company. Next, another thing, recommendations and client testimonials. Oh my goodness, this is such an underutilized tool in LinkedIn. A lot of you have great LinkedIn profiles, but have zero recommendations because you're shy to ask your colleague. You know what? Just build the habit of asking one recommendation a month. And in a few days, in a few months, you'll see 1, 2, 3. That is enough. You have to come in with a mindset that when somebody walks in your LinkedIn, when somebody clicks your profile on LinkedIn, you're already selling them. You've already sold yourself. If you go onto my LinkedIn right now, I have over 40 recommendations from every single, from my team. And you know what? I've had to build that habit of requesting a recommendation from them. And some give it on their free will. But you know what? When people want to work for me or when people want to apply with my company, they look at the recommendations of on my LinkedIn and they're immediately sold. I don't even have to say anything. They walk in an interview with me and they're like, Saib, I've looked at your LinkedIn profile and it's incredible. I want to work for you. Can you imagine that? And then, of course, I think I've talked about the resume earlier. Now, let's talk about the elevator pitch. How do you craft a professional elevator pitch? So I'll say that there are 3 great characteristics of an elevator pitch. One would be touching on your career highlights, your relevant skill sets or technologies that you worked on, and key metrics in your previous role, and some guidelines on how to use and how to craft an elevator pitch. Use uncommon or clever words. Don't try to, if everybody's saying, I have revolutionized this, don't say it all over again. You want to say something contrasting to that. Of course, simplicity is key and brevity is crucial. When you are saying your elevator pitch, you don't want it longer than a minute or 2. And of course, practice creates confidence and flow. So now, if you don't have elevator pitch yet, I'm going to be giving you 5 formulas. So 1 would be the professional overview. This is who you are as a professional. This is the very essence of you. So I'm not going to read this anymore. I'm just going to go through the formulas one by one. And then next, education plus unique skills. So I came from a double major, so I would say that if you have this incredible degree and you graduated from a school that's made a stamp in this world, say that you graduated from Harvard, and then talk about the unique skills. So this formula is handy for the fresh graduates, the ones who are just stepping in the professional arena. Next, career highlights. This is, I'd say this is the second most impressive type of elevator pitch. If you are a seasoned professional with so many achievements, talk about them, try to summarize it, and try to come up with a condensed form that's just really going to blow the mind of your hiring manager. Next is the professional plus personal elevator pitch. Now, I really love this a lot. If I'm hiring people in the marketing team and they tell me this is what they do professionally, but they're passionate about so-and-so, and outside of work, this is who they are, that makes me interested in them. That makes me want to get to know them. And of course, the last, and I think the most important type of elevator pitch is the metric-driven one. Now, a lot of us don't really pay attention to this. I've not seen a lot of applicants use this formula. This is such a powerful piece of marketing material. If you say that you're a seasoned executive and you've increased the revenue of this company and you can apply the following skill sets in your future company, that is a slam dunk. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are going to ask me, which elevator pitch should I be using? Now, this goes back to my point earlier. You've got to know your hiring manager. You've got to know what is important for the prospective employer. What is important to them? Are they process driven? Are they leadership driven? Are they people driven? Are they metric driven? Performance driven? And that is what should tell you what elevator pitch to use. How are we on time, Jennifer?
We're doing great. We have another 30 minutes till the end of session. And so if we want to leave time for Q&A, I think we're doing well. Thank you.
Okay, cool. So now, what are the great questions to ask the hiring manager? Now, I'll say that, again, I'm going to say that if the information is found online, you would approach the situation and say, I found this information online, is this accurate? If you want to verify something. But if you want to have an impactful question, talk about, these are 5 really, really good points to ask the hiring manager. Who will you be reporting to and what is their leadership style? This is important to you as an applicant. You want to know these things beforehand. It'll impact your decision-making process. How does the day-to-day look like for this position? This is a really good question because it tells the hiring manager that you're a person who looks forward to the day-to-day. You can even say something like, I'm a structured person and I manage my time and I'm really organized on the day-to-day. So I'd like to know, how does the day-to-day look like for this role? Next, how do the best employees perform? Now, this is a very, I'd say, a revealing question, because if you're asking, how do the best employees perform? It actually shows the hiring manager that you want to set that high standard for performance. Now, if you're a problem solver and you like problems and you like solving them, this is another great question for you. What are the biggest challenges for this role? You know, a lot of companies want to hire that. They want to hire people who can come in and just come in swinging and solving problems. So if you ask this at the right hiring manager who wants a problem solver, this is going to be a really, really good green flag. Last, my favorite question of all time. What does success look like for this role? This is so important because you're actually telling the hiring manager that you want to be successful in this role and you want to see what successful looks like. I'm sure a lot of you are going to be asking about these questions later, but next thing, what not to do during an interview. Number 1, do not be late. There is absolutely, if it's a virtual interview, there's absolutely no reason for you to be late. So please, if something happens, take the time to call the hiring manager or the interviewer and reschedule the interview, but try not to arrive late. Mispronounce the company and the interviewer's name. So if you are going in an interview and you don't know how to pronounce the person's name, it's really just ask politely and say, how do I pronounce your name? Next, have negative energy or be cynical. Oh my goodness, this is something I witness every single day. I have interviewed so many candidates. Whenever I ask them a question, they give me a problem. Oh, but I can't do this. Oh, I wasn't allowed to do that. If you're going to be cynical and bring negative energy in the interview, might as well reschedule it, because hiring managers want to hire a growth mindset. They want to find somebody who's going to bring solutions and not problems. Unclear or vague answers and questions. Now, this happens all the time. There's so many candidates who just don't know how to answer a question. So my advice to you, take the time to study the job description. Most of the questions are gonna be there. When I prep my own candidates, so we do a bit of executive search too in our company. When we prep our candidates, I dissect everything in the job description. And if there's anything I question myself, you know what I do? I do my research, or I look it up on the client's website. But the job description is such a revealing tool that you can use in your interview. Next, speak negatively about your employers or your previous employers or your colleagues. This is a cardinal sin of the job interview. If you have those scorn feelings about your previous employer or colleagues, set that aside. There is another avenue for that. You can talk about that in the future, but don't ever make that mistake of bringing that into your interview. And lastly, never negotiate pay on the first meeting. Now, I'm pretty sure a lot of you are going to say, when is the best time to negotiate the pay? I'm going to reserve that for the Q&A portion, but do not negotiate the pay. There's another avenue for that, and that's usually at the end of the process. Okay. So now, how do you close the interview? It's really simple. Now, earlier we were talking about making a great first impression. Now, when you reach the interview process, the gift right here, this is your goal. You want to have that mic drop moment. You want to close that interview so well that that recruiter or that hiring manager never forgets you. You know, when I do my recruiting meetings, I often ask my recruiters, why are you fighting for this candidate? And usually if it's a candidate who didn't have an impressive interview, they just say, yeah, nothing really. But if it's a candidate that has given them a lasting impression, they will say, you know what, we had an incredible interview with this candidate, and I just know it's right. So when you're closing the interview, what are the things that you need to say? Say that you're grateful for the interview today. If the person has talked about the job description and the overview of the role, thank them for that. And of course, what you want is you want to reassure that you are a fit, that your experience, your accomplishments are a fit to the company. I want to let you know, every single hiring manager has a formula. They have a scorecard right in front of them. Here's my personal scorecard, and I'm giving you my trade secrets. I have 4: attitude, aptitude, so your skills, your tech abilities, and 4 is super important, the culture fit. That's my formula when I'm hiring candidates. So if you want to summarize quickly those 4 things, thank you so much for the interview today. My skills can benefit you with this. I have an A player mentality. I will come in every single day with a winning attitude. My tech skills are the following, and I believe seeing your company's website and the photos on the internet, I'm going to be a great culture fit. And of course, you say thank you so much for your time. Now, if you are in an interview where it abruptly ends or you don't have any time anymore, I want to let you know, having that thank you email, sending a thank you email goes a long way. So never end the interview without saying thank you. Now, I am going to recommend this to anybody who is going to go on an interview in the next couple of days. There is a book that has helped me with my presence and helped me on all of those nerve-wracking times. And it's a book by Amy Cuddy, and it's called Presence. She also has a podcast, and it's just an incredible book that you want to read like right now. All right, over to you, Jennifer.
Wonderful. I think we've got a digital round of applause going right now. I've been keeping an eye on the chat and people have just loved the presentation that you shared. I don't know if you're able to see it while you were presenting, but such wonderful, kind comments. And I know content that a lot of us, obviously everyone here, and I know so many people who aren't able to join us live, really need. And so thank you so much, Cybill, for sharing your insights. I know I took some notes here and I'm excited to apply them in my next interview, and also even just presenting with other colleagues. I think this is advice we can transfer to a lot of different situations. So I'll remind folks, you are going to get a copy of this recording and presentation in our follow-up. So don't worry about that. You can watch it again, take some more notes. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and put them in the Q&A. We already have a lot that are there. So I will go ahead and hop over and start with this first question from Esther. So we'll see how many we can get to. I think we're going to have enough time, and glad that John Lee, you're going to be watching this again. I know I will be too. So Esther asks, thanks Cybill for an incredible start. Are you saying if the candidate hasn't researched your company, then he's not the good fit, or could he pass for a second chance at the next stage? So what do you think?
If a candidate hasn't researched my company, I'd personally give them another shot. But you want to make sure that you walk in an interview researching the company beforehand. So if you didn't pass the first round, apply again. You will be given a chance, but this time come in swinging and come in prepared.
Right. And I think too, sometimes people say, what I hear is people say, I don't know what to say, or I'm not sure what to focus on. And I use that job description and the company page as your map, like you said, and your compass to win the race and know where you're going. And you don't have to recreate the wheel there. So try and use that information that they're already giving you. So you mentioned about the importance of course, having your CV and resume up to date and reflecting who you are. Could you talk a little bit more? Bunny is asking about how to optimize your LinkedIn profile and really leaning into that as part of the interview process. And what advice do you have there?
Okay, I love this question, but I'm going to have so many answers because
Yeah.
if you've seen my LinkedIn, I've invested so much time and effort on it. But okay, I'll start by saying that because we're a recruiting firm, I actually hear a lot of companies say that they're not going to even interview anyone who doesn't have a LinkedIn profile. So this is absolutely crucial. Now, what are the elements of a LinkedIn profile that can really, really help you? And I'll just try to boil it down to the ones that will really help you in a job interview. You need a professional photo, where all of the recruiters are looking at that. If you don't have a cover photo, you can make a cover photo on Canva. It's really, really easy to make, or you can upload a photo. The cover photo isn't really like a major part of a LinkedIn profile, but what we're looking at is the bio, what you've said about yourself. And if you took the time to create the elevator pitch, there's your bio. And of course, you don't have to go, your LinkedIn profile is not your CV. So you don't have to spend heaps amount of time to optimize and update your LinkedIn. But just have your relevant experiences on LinkedIn. And as I said earlier, one of the most underutilized tools, excuse me, in LinkedIn is the recommendations. So if you can get a colleague or a previous supervisor to write something about you, that is premium marketing material for you. So if you want an optimized LinkedIn profile photo, about you section, cover photo if you can, your relevant experiences, and a recommendation or two.
That's great. And I think too, what I like to advise people is remembering that your LinkedIn can be a place where you store anecdotes from past positions for your own reference, and also for somebody looking that's a recruiter or hiring manager. So within, your role, you can put, here's a favorite story of mine from this position. And then those recommendations are, of course, someone's going to read that and can think, okay, Cybill, you're wonderful because look at all these great recommendations. But also in an interview, you can use that material and say, in my past roles, so this is what's been said about me, as you can see from my LinkedIn profile. And so you don't have to continually reach out to people for, okay, could you share something about me? So that's wonderful advice. And I hope people will remember to take that into account. So Jan Lee, and I hope I'm saying your name correctly, has a very good question. They're asking, what's a question we should not ask the interviewer? You shared some great examples of what we should ask, and what shouldn't we ask?
I'd say it differs with every hiring manager. You as the applicant should probably kind of get the lay of the land. When you are talking to a hiring manager, you have to listen to their verbal cues as well. What are the topics that are sensitive to them? Are they the type of manager? Are they the type of interviewer that's open to questions? I tell you, I've seen so many hiring managers who are not open to questions at all. Could there be another avenue for that? So it's really a case-to-case basis. But as I mentioned earlier, if it's something that's already found online, something that you can already do the research yourself, it's going on the interview is probably not the best place to ask that. Negotiating about the salary is something that you shouldn't talk about. And if you really want to find out any salary information, try to tackle it intelligently. Have your facts in order and be transparent and say, I've looked at the job description. I've seen that these are the salary packages for the role. Is this something that I would expect for this role?
That's great. So we have a lot of questions that are coming in the Q&A around negotiating salary. So you brought that up just now of like, sometimes it's brought up in the first interview by the hiring manager, sometimes in the last interview. From your perspective, and I think this is a tricky one because it's going to be different depending on the company that you're applying to. So we really have to be ready for any eventuality. But in your opinion, how do people navigate that? So if they bring it up in the first interview, how do we respond? Should we bring it up in the last if they haven't already? What do you think?
Okay, so when you're an applicant, you have to do your job probing and finding out if this company is really interested in you, because the best time to negotiate pay is when the company has shown interest. If you have reached a stage where they say, we are taking you to the next stage, or we are approaching the final stages of the hiring process and expect an offer, pause, don't say anything, wait for the offer, and then negotiate. Because you want to come from a position of power. It's so different when you have an offer in your hand, when you have your experiences in your hand, and you negotiate with a person when you know that they're already interested in you. If they've already taken that step and given you a job offer, that is your indication to negotiate.
That's great. So let's see. So this is a question that I really like this one. Jamila, you asked this because I hear this a lot, and I think it's a source of frustration for a lot of people. But after an interview, is it still okay to ask for feedback from the hiring manager regarding your answers and or performance during the interview? I hear that one a lot. So really good question.
Yes. Okay. So I would probably not ask the question, how did I perform in the interview? A red flag question that I've seen, because I've interviewed a lot, is a candidate will ask me and say, are you satisfied with me? And I think that's a red flag. Because you know what? The hiring manager may not tell you directly if they're satisfied with you or not. So I would reframe that question and say something like, in our interview, is there anything that I haven't addressed yet? Do
Mhm,
you think that my experiences fit this role?
mhm.
And that would be a better question to ask.
I love that. And I have heard from someone who actually did ask just what you said in a way of like, is there anything that I haven't covered that, you think that I haven't shined light on in my experience? And then they said something, and then that person had actually done that. And so they were able to give an answer of like, oh, here's an example of a time when I have done that. So that I love that reframing that you shared. Wonderful question, Jamila. So here's one now, and I'm sure this has happened to all of us. Jane is tapping in to it. So how do you handle an interview question that you really do not have an answer for?
Okay, now if you are in this situation, and I encounter this a lot. You know what? Don't fib, don't lie, just be transparent. Just say,
Mhm.
maybe if you need to gather your thoughts, it's okay to pause. It's okay to say, let me gather my thoughts, let me compose myself. And if you really feel stumped and you don't know the question, please just answer straightforward and say, I don't know the answer right now, but let me get back to you.
That's great. And I think too, it's because these interviews are an example of how we're going to perform on the job. And it's not a reality that we're always going to have the answer right away to something. So that's showing and demonstrating to others that you are going to take your time, and I need a little bit more time. And then of course, be sure to follow up with more
I
information.
actually have a great example. I
Mhm.
interviewed the vice president yesterday, and she lacked the skills. I thought she lacked the skills to perform on this role that we're hiring her for. So I was pretty hard on her in the interview, and I said, "Doesn't seem like you have the right skills. It doesn't seem like you've done this." You know what she said? "Let me prove myself to you." And you
Hmm.
know, she we had a conversation today, and she completely wowed us, and
Wow.
she turned my mind around, and now I'm going to hire her.
So there is a chance, even that's great to know. Now, I think too, so Jane put this in the chat, and I'm not sure if she also, because I saw it in the Q&A as well, but so answering this question of where do you see yourself 5 years from now? I wonder if people, I'm sure they're still asking this question, but of course we all know it's it's a hard question to answer because life can be so unpredictable. But how do you recommend people answering that question?
Okay, so it's incredible because I actually made a LinkedIn post about this exact topic. Okay,
Wow.
so I asked a graphic designer a few years ago, where do you want to be 3 years from now? And he answered me point blank and said, "I want to be a creative director, handling multiple teams and being the master of our brand." And guess what? I just promoted him last month to be our creative director. So that's what an interviewer wants to see. This
Wow.
interviewer wants to see that you want to climb that ladder. You are on this straight career path, and
Mhm.
it's the same career path. You're not switching from another industry. So a red flag answer would be, "Oh, I think I'd be taking a break," or "I'm probably starting my own business." That's what we all want. But in the job application process, it's probably not the wisest thing to say to your
Mhm.
hiring manager. But what we are looking for in that question is ambition.
Mhm. That's wonderful. And seeing, yeah, how that ambition fits within the realities of this role, because sometimes, somebody could start talking about something that's completely different, and you think, well, this role really isn't going to fit into your puzzle of what you're planning. So that's great, situating yourself in the company and in that specific industry. All right, let's see, where did the questions go? There's so many wonderful questions coming in. Thank you for everyone. So this is a great one. So Jenica, and I think a lot of people who are earlier in their careers or who are maybe pivoting and haven't had as much career in a certain industry. So what's a good way to sell yourself if you're still a student with no working experience?
I really, really love this question because Jenica, a few years ago, I was just like you. I went in a job interview and I had zero experience. You know what I did? I sold my drive. I
Mm,
sold my passion. When you have no job experience and you come in prepared and you come with that energy, a lot of us business owners want that. And you talk about what are the skills that you've done as a student that can potentially help you in the workplace? If you've shown some leadership in a community, whether you helped a charity, you were a volunteer, or
mhm,
you showed leadership in a sports team, I'll tell you right now, there are so many companies, some of our clients in Silicon Valley, who actually want us to look for fresh grads who are
mm,
athletes
mm,
because they want that drive, they want that competitive nature. They
mm,
want that winning mentality. So if you don't have a lot of experience, what are your experiences in the past that
mhm.
you could use in your workplace?
Wow, that's great. So thinking about everything that's around you in your environment, and even if it's not directly that work experience, how you can pull out a transferable story, that's really helpful. Um, so let's see, what else do we have? Um, uh, let's see. Now, I think this question is coming from more on the HR side, but I think it's helpful to give an insight to folks because this, the interview process can feel opaque sometimes, and really like it's not transparent. People don't know what's happening and the decisions that are taking place on the company side. So this is why it's so helpful having this conversation with you, Cybill, because you know both sides, and so you have that perspective and can give the insight. So as asking as an interviewer now, do you need to state specifically why you won't be considering a candidate for further stages, like why they did or do not do well as part of an interview, and what do you think there?
Sorry, can you say that again, Jennifer? I just want to make sure I understood that question.
Sure, this one's coming from the someone who's interviewing candidates, and how much information are you finding is appropriate that you are giving in terms of feedback to candidates of why you did or didn't move forward with them as an applicant? Um, do you need to give anything? Are you just saying to people who are applying to your jobs, thank you so much for interviewing, we're not moving forward with your candidacy? Or are there any times when you are going into a little bit more detail and letting the candidates know where they were falling short?
Okay, so I believe in transparency. In my company, every single recruiter, I've actually instructed every single recruiter to make sure that they have that touch point whenever they reject or decline a candidate.
Mhm,
It's one of my policies to never say that a candidate has been rejected. They're
mhm,
not suitable at this time. See,
mhm,
when we're hiring, a lot of us companies, when we're hiring because there's a timing issue. And sometimes a candidate may have the experience, but it's not the right time.
mhm,
So I always tell my recruiters, be transparent. Take
mhm,
the time to inform your candidate. It could have been the wrong time. It could be that their experiences don't suit the situation at the moment.
mhm,
We don't go into so much detail because we have so many hiring managers within the company and we don't have the time to give that much detail. But we always say, if you have any questions and if you want to dig deeper, our
mhm.
lines are open for you.
That's great. So thinking too, I think it's so important we think about these interviews as being transactional, and really they could be the beginning of a relationship, because maybe the role isn't going to work out now, but there could be one in the future, even years from now. And so uh, always keeping those lines of communication open. I'm curious too, since this is Nexford University, we are committed to lifelong learning and building socioeconomic mobility through education. What have you seen when people talk about their own learning and education in an interview, what have you seen as some successful ways that people have done that?
Um, I'm probably not the best question to I'm not
Yeah.
the best person to answer this question, but I'll tell you that what I look for when a person talks about their educational attainment, I focus more about what they've done with their education.